Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to this webinar organized by Viva Education and Viva VOLT. Thank you all for joining. Viva Group has been at the forefront of education and academics for more than 3 decades now. We continue to connect with educators through various online and offline events like this for sharing ideas and experience for the betterment of education. We are privileged to have with us today eminent educationist Mr. Ashok Ganguly, who was the former chairman of the CBSE. In fact, he needs no introduction. He's incredibly popular among the educational fraternity. However, for the sake of formality and for the record, I will still give you a listing of his achievements. Mr. Ashok Ganguly is most widely known as the former chairman of the CBSE. In addition to that, he has formerly held the positions of Additional Director Projects, Joint Secretary of Education, and Senior Consultant Non-Formal Education, all three with the government of Uttar Pradesh. He has worked closely in formulating and finalizing the National Curriculum Framework of 2005, while he was part of the National Steering Committee and Central Advisory Board of Education. He also worked in a pivotal role in the preparation and development of textbooks for classes 1 to 12 as a member of the National Monitoring Group. Mr. Ganguly has also chaired the Ganguly Committee set up to formulate the admission criteria and other related issues, including minimum age in nursery classes. Many of us remember the last webinar with Mr. Ganguly 2 years ago, in which he explained the key principles of the NEP with astonishing clarity, when every one of us was struggling to make sense of this landmark policy. It has in fact been one of the most lucid and distilled talks on the NEP available to date. You can watch that webinar on the Viva Education YouTube channel. The topic of today's webinar is competency-based learning. It is an idea central to the very purpose of education, as well as the future of the nation and its economy. It also concerns with the nature of everyday work for most of us attending this session. Towards the end of today's session, we'll be able to take a few limited number of audience queries. Please share them in the chat box if you're on Zoom, and as comments if you're joining through Facebook. Now I request our keynote speaker, Mr. Ganguly, to commence his talk. Over to you, sir.
Okay. So now, let us start afresh. So let us start with the questions. What is the competency-based education? You know, the basic aim of education is to make every child competent, confident, and committed, so that they have the thinking ability, reasonable imagination and creativity, communication ability, and the maths skills. The purpose of education is no longer to pass on theoretical knowledge. What matters the most is to equip students with future-ready skills so that they can thrive in new globalized world order. See, the world is changing, and changing so dramatically that students graduating from school by 2030 will make careers in fields that we at the moment are clueless about. So we have to keep pace with this changing process, with this uncertainty which is now prevailing. As the name suggests, competency-based education focuses on individual competency. Here the mantra is that every child is talented, not few. Every child must learn, of course, as per their attitude and aptitude. So it is a learner-centric approach, not the teacher-centric, and neither the learning-centric, in which students move from one level to another level by acquiring and demonstrating mastery of certain skills. Now, again, the question arises whether the present education system is not competency-based, or whether in our time earlier, have we not been put into competent enough to face the challenges ahead? Actually, over the years, we are all the time trying to go for mass education, addressing mediocrity and not the meritocracy, missing the class aspect, the quality part of the education. It is one size fits all system where we have the same curriculum, same teaching methodology, same homework, and even the same evaluation or examination system for all types of students. The schools are facing serious dilemma about this. And beside this school dilemma, the students' dilemma are that they need to focus all the time with the performance. Learning happens or not. And forget about the innovations and creativity, because these values will not be reflected, at the end of the academic session. And the teacher's dilemma, that they are all the time busy with preparing homework, tests, correcting homework, classwork, and summarizing results. So where is the time for innovations, competency-based education, and individual attention? Today, the 35% of the teacher's time are just being spent, 1/3 of the time, on preparing, correcting, summarizing homework, classwork, tests. So it is thus not becoming possible to remember every student's strength and weaknesses in subject at a granular level. But I'm not here to tell about all such excuses, because most of the things you are already aware. I'm here to tell you about the solution, because we need to implement this very important aspect of national education policy, and that is the competency-based education in the classroom. See, we are living in a societal setup, and the schools are part of the society. So society's limitation will always be reflected in the functioning of the school. So in spite of having those limitations, barriers, and difficulties, we as educationists, every stakeholders of education must ensure, we have to ensure the implementation of the competency-based education, because that is the future now. On the other side, it is a new world order brought on by Industry 4.0. Now, in order to address the challenges posed by Industry 4.0, our education system have to be uplifted to Education 4.0, focusing on non-cognitive skills and experiential learning, and also provide students with employability skills 5.0. I'm adding that still most of the schools, about more than 90% of the schools are still at education 1.0 level. Only very few have raised their level to education 2.0, education 3.0. You know that there's a radical transformation now in the field of work and employment. Most of the employment that is today exists, and tomorrow that will come, will be in the unorganized sector, where the employability skills will be of great importance. And this employability skill has to begin from the school itself. What are those employability skills 5.0? Emotional quotient, you are a social quotient, creative quotient, intelligence quotient, technology quotient, and spiritual quotient. So we thus have to prepare our students not just as entrepreneurs, but intrapreneurs, so that they can bring innovative and value-based ideas. Now, again, the question arises, are our system ready to provide these skills to our students in their journey from class to career? Surely not. Why? You know that in all the three dimensions of curriculum policy, curriculum design, curriculum transaction, and curriculum evaluation. These are three domains of curriculum dynamics. In all these three domains, it is the 3R, English alphabet R. It is a 3R which is dominating. And these 3R are regimentation, restrictions, and repetition. So in this close-ended environment, neither the teachers, nor the schools, and nor the students are finding any space to innovate or discover or experiment with the curriculum. Though our education has moved from Gurukul to June, but it is the MOTS, M-O-T-S, MOTS, which is prevailing. And this MOTS is more of the same MOTS. And we are all very comfortable to repeat these academic exercises year after year. So we have to come out now from this suffocating environment and embrace open-ended curriculum approach. Yes, our learning and teaching should not now be limited within the pages of the textbooks. We have to go beyond that. I'm sorry to say that most of the things that we are still teaching today to our students have already become obsolete. So we have to add, because the knowledge is expanding so much. The half-life period of knowledge now has been reduced to just 6 weeks. We need to provide this latest knowledge inputs, integrating into the curriculum in an interdisciplinary manner. So our schools, our teachers, our educators, our principals need to take an atomic vow, atomic vow, that we need to provide the competency-based education to our children, where every children is important and every child must learn. Now, in the competency-based learning environment, students are empowered to make decisions regarding their learning, to take control of their own learning, what to learn, how to learn. Now, in this process, students are allowed to explore and engage in learning at their own pace and use different personalized learning paths. Yes, this 2E, explorations and engagement, but other 3E of the 5E system, the other 3E, that is explanation, extension, and evaluations, are important, but they can follow subsequently. First of all, that the students need to be given the chance to explore and engage themselves. Of course, when we talk about the competency-based education, it is not the 5E alone now. It is a 7E now. There are 2 other E also very important. One is elaboration. And second E is experimentation. This is a 7E approach when we talk about the competency-based educations. And of course, the teachers as mentor is always there to assist and guide to the students as per their individual needs. So teachers' visibility and accessibility is one of the most important factors when you talk to ensure the competency-based educations. And of course, the teachers need to fine-tune their behavioral and attitudinal aspect and believe that it is a possibility in spite of so many hurdles. Yes, large class size, you may say, heterogeneous clientele group, curriculum load, intra-departmental pressures, interdepartmental pressures, etc., etc. So in order to ensure the competency-based education, teachers must make their physical presence and social presence in the school and in the classroom felt. They may have to run a lot, listen a lot, shout a lot, laugh a lot, appreciate a lot, besides, of course, read a lot. And they must be very graceful under pressure, calm and composed in most provocative situations. And they need to do the curriculum planning. And you know, the curriculum planning is both art and the science. So that at the end of the academic session, while going for the competency-based education for individual attention, they may not falter in not completing the curriculum wholly. The curriculum can be planned in 4 different ways, 3 or 4 as per the school needs. The portion of the curriculum which must be taught in the classroom itself, offline mode. Second, the portion of the curriculum which can be completed through digital mode, the online mode. The portion of the curriculum which can be completed through project mode. And some portion of the curriculum which can be even completed through self-learning. So we need to do that curriculum planning properly. So the key features of the competency-based education system are, first, that it is a learner-centric. Yes, the strong areas of the students are recognized and nurtured, whereas the weak areas are given support. Once students will see that they are giving support and guide from the teachers, they will understand the relevance of learning. And once the students understand the relevance of learning, then they will own up the learning process also, ownership of learning. Second, explore diverse learning opportunities. Yes, do not stick to textbook-based learning or top-down prescriptive model of curriculum. Let it be open-ended. And why can't we have school-based frontline curriculum approach? Yes, you know that curriculum revision takes its own time. It's now 15 years now that curriculum revision last time took place. And the knowledge is expanding so fast. Half-life period of knowledge now has been reduced to just 6 weeks. So the school must develop the competency also to add certain portion of the latest knowledge, maybe in science, maybe in social science, maybe in language, genomics, virtual reality, augmented reality. Why can't we add this latest knowledge inputs integrated into the subject in an interdisciplinary manner? So this is about the explore diverse learning opportunities. Number third, no time constraints. When you talk of the competency-based education, there should not be any time constraints. Let the learning be not limited by clock and calendar. Yes, I'm not telling a jargon. This is a reality. This is a possibility, provided we as teachers shows empathy and believe in personalized learning. Fourth, the collaborative approach in every aspect of teaching and learning. This is the 4 key features of the competency-based education. Now here the class attendance, timetable, or the marks obtained in the examinations are not that important. The importance is how the individual can demonstrate the concrete skills that they have learned. Yes, the experiential learning is one aspect of competency-based education. If the competency-based education is a universal set, then of course the experiential learning is subset of this universal set. And we all know about the experiential learning. We learn best through experience and reflection. This means doing the stuff we want to learn and reflecting on the experiences. In the experiential mode, we do the things, feel, observe, and then try to analyze. So it is a Bloom's taxonomy, slowly going upwards. But we do the reverse. We start with explanation and end up with the home assignment. That is the deductive approach. This will not now work in the change scenario, in the globalized world order. Now, usually the teachers need to adopt 3 strategies to ensure the competency-based education, to ensure the required competency. First strategy, scaffolding. Second is reflection. Third is articulation. You know the scaffolding. You know that when the building is being constructed, we provide support through structure. When the building is being constructed, yeah. And when it is complete, then the support is removed, the scaffolding is removed, and the building then stands on its base. Similar is the situation in the classroom process also. We need to provide support, scaffolding to each and every child as per their attitude and aptitude. Scaffolding is a very, very important thing. Second is the reflection. Whatever the new knowledge we are learning, we need to reflect on those ideas. We need to encourage questions being raised, brainstorming, group discussion, yes, experimentation, explorations. So these are the reflection approach. And then the articulation, we need to externalize the new knowledge or skills we are learning. We need to externalize those things. And we need to create for this a fear-free environment in the school and as well as in the classroom. So we have to structure these processes in order to ensure that desired learning outcomes are reached. Now, besides these 3 strategies, there are 6 powers of tools. We may say that 6 power tools we may adopt while dealing with the competency-based education. 6 powers of tools, 6, power to the P to the power 6. The first power is, of course, powers of questioning. We always say that questions must become the answer. Power of questioning, let everyone be allowed to raise the question, to initiate the discussion process. Power of going beyond books. I do not know why we are restricting our knowledge within the pages of textbooks. Power of real life situation. Yes, extension. Whatever we are learning, what is the utility in the real life situation? In our time, when I raised this question, why we are being forced to learn quadratic equation or linear equation, at that time, the teacher stopped further discussion. Just do not raise questions. But today's students cannot live in this world with unsolved problems. So power of real life situation, number 3. Number 4, power of demonstration. Number 5, power of technology. Yes, technology assisted pedagogy is required when we talk about the competency-based education. And last, power of enthusiasm. Yes, teachers must be enthusiastic and believe that, yes, this is a better way of dealing the classroom process. Now the question again, what competency the teacher should have so as to impart education moving from present system of rote learning to experiential mode, experiential method. The teachers with high emotional intelligence is the most important thing, very important factor, because it helps to create an academic environment conducive to competency-based education. Now, such teachers always avoid the 3 C's in the classrooms: comparison, compulsion, and competition. They will never compare, because the comparison can be had only between the equals. And the 2 students are not equals. They are different identity, different entity. So they avoid the 3 C's. Comparison, compulsion should be replaced by choice, flexibility, and no competitions. Let them participate in all such activities. One thing I must admit, that our general education system is not robust, of not having that rigor. Rigor is possible when students understand the relevance of learning. I've given already an example. Why I am learning the Newton's first law of motion. Why I am learning the thermodynamics. I must be given this answer. What is its real implications in the real world? So rigor is possible when the students understand the relevance of learning. And the rigor and relevance is attainable when the students force an enduring relationship with themselves, with learning, with environment, with peers, with teachers. So this framework, the 3R framework, rigor, relevance, and relationship, must work in tandem from early years of the schooling process, say from class 5 onwards, so that the children develop the competency to be creative, empathetic, problem-solving, critical thinkers of the future. 3R framework. As I've already said, that today is a new world order. We are passing through a very, very, very exciting phase of the human civilization, and it is a new world order now. The era of invention is over. Today, there is wave of innovations. Yes, we need to ensure in every bit of our curricular and co-curricular activities how we can innovate, how we can put innovation in such activities. And innovation comes from imagination. And imagination is possible only through reading. So children must be allowed in the classroom to imagine. Imagination. Because imagination will then lead to innovations. Innovations and creativity will then lead to entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship then will further lead to income generation later on in their life. And the income generation will finally lead to better quality of life and the higher quality of life. And that is the ultimate mate of having education. We need to understand this very process of education dynamics. I can give you the example of a simple example of imagination. I entered into a class 7 actually, just a few years back. And I asked the students, the science class going on, I asked the students, what is your weight? Someone said that my weight is 15 kilo. Some say that 12 kilo. Some say that 10 kilo. There was a bag actually put up in the room itself at a corner. And that bag, I asked the students, this bag is of weight of 60 kgs. I asked the children who are average weight of 13 to 14 kgs, can you lift this bag on your shoulder? The students were perplexed. What nonsense question I was asking? We are of only 13, 14, 15 kgs of weight. How can I lift a bag of 60 kgs of weight? There was complete silence, murmuring what they need to answer. Finally, after a few minutes, say about 8 to 10 minutes, one student raised hands and said, sir, I can lift this bag. He said, how? How can I lift this bag of 60 kg? He said, please send me to the moon and I can lift this bag there because the weight of this bag will be there of 10 kgs. Maybe he is not understanding that his weight will also be lessened there when he goes to the moon. But see the imagination. How the imagination can work wonder in the classroom process, and this will definitely lead to innovations later on in their life. So please do not give the excuses that it is not possible in today's situation. Yes, you can do it. May not be daily, once in a week, once in a fortnight, once in a month. Can you do it? This experiential mode, discovering the curriculum, competency-based education, Saturdays, can you have 2 Saturdays, purely bagless day out of the 4 Saturdays? So there are various ways of doing this, provided that we take this atomic vow that we need to implement this process of inductive approach to the classroom process. And as I have said, that for this we need to do a proper curriculum planning at the beginning of the academic session. That's very essential. And the competency that they need to acquire, both in curricular and co-curricular areas. But unfortunately, this is not happening in many of the schools. Some schools are doing this, no doubt about it. Next is transforming the assessment system, both formative and summative. Definitely, it's a huge challenge, but it is needed. Competency-based education cannot be put into reality if the proper assessment systems are not taken into account, both in the home examination as well as in the board examinations. All the 3 aspects of assessment, assessment of learning, assessment for learning, and assessment as learning, are to be taken into account. While the typology of the questions needs to be changed in the board examinations, so that the selective studies are discouraged. And in the formative assessment, we need to have differential assessment system and not the same assessment system for all types of students. Unless and until we have this differential assessment system, we will not be in a position to identify or recognize or assess the competency of the children. But it cannot happen spontaneously, or it cannot happen just putting it into national education policy. It is an ongoing, evolving process. We have to take single step daily to achieve that goal. With each step, we will gain momentum, And with consistency, having the step daily, new step daily, we will be definitely reaching our goal of having the competency-based education in the system. So the teachers need to be put into back to school program on a regular basis. It's not that they are not good enough. They are good enough, but they can be made even better if you can arrange this back to school program on a regular basis. Next, the teachers as a professional entity, teachers as a professional force. We must recognize teachers as a professional force, as a professional entity. Not everyone and anyone can become a teacher. Not any teacher can teach any subject. And teaching job is not for weak-minded. So teachers, when you talk about the teachers as a professional force, as a professional player, we may sometimes feel impoverished. Yes, may face occupational poverty, may face emotional poverty, may even face intellectual poverty. But nothing to be worried. Yes, it is important to know what we lack. Everybody is ignorant about something. For example, myself, I'm still immigrant to technology. And my son is a citizen. So often I take help of my son and my daughter-in-law for this technological interface. There is nothing wrong. Because everybody is ignorant about something. Each of us is poor somewhere in our lives. And why we are so reluctant to admit it? An admission of poverty and taking corrective measures could have turned into a positive possibility for real learning. So I will say the teaching fraternity, the one need to admit, yes, I need help. And here the success story starts. The change happens. So looking ahead, competency-based education is definitely an academic approach to teaching, learning, and assessment that focuses on the students' learning outcomes and also attaining proficiency in particular competencies, both in curricular as well as co-curricular areas. So no doubt the competency-based education is more engaging learning experience. There's no doubt about it. More flexibility for students, more efficient learning outcomes for students, and it ensures improved confidence amongst the students. But then it has to be implemented in a phased manner with proper scaling. So we can start, say, from beginning from class 5 to class 8, one academic session. The next session we can start in class 9 and gradually taking it to up to class 12. It also needs the teachers' change in the mindset. Besides, of course, change in the skill set as well as soul set. Yes, teachers must believe that it is a possibility. No excuses now. It needs strong support from all quarters, from top, from colleague, and from parents also. Of course, it needs focus on hands-on activities, experiential learning, and inquiry-based learning. Technology-assisted pedagogy will definitely help the competency-based education. And there must be a clear assessment standards. So the present assessment standards will definitely not beneficial, will not help the competency-based education at all. Because we are hearing now from various boards that in the question paper from the next year, they will be asking the competency-based education. Unless and until we change the content part, unless and until we change the transactional part, we cannot implement it in the just straight away in the examination, the tail part of the curriculum dynamics. Well, so the message is now very clear. Yes, it is a globalized world order, and we want our school education to be of global standard. We want that most of the schools are to be at education 4.0 level. सो काम तो कठिन है, इसीलिए करने योग्य है, नहीं तो आसान काम तो सभी कर लेते हैं. And teaching job is not for weak-minded. So teachers, when you talk about the teachers as a professional force, as a professional player, we may sometimes feel impoverished. Yes, may face occupational poverty, may face emotional poverty, may even face intellectual poverty. But nothing to be worried. Yes, it is important to know what we lack. Everybody is ignorant about something. For example, myself, I'm still immigrant to technology, and my son is a citizen. So often I take help of my son and my daughter-in-law for this technological interface. There is nothing wrong, because everybody is ignorant about something. Each of us is poor somewhere in our lives. And why we are so reluctant to admit it? An admission of poverty and taking corrective measures could have turned into a positive possibility for real learning. So I will say the teaching fraternity, the one need to admit, yes, I need help. And here the success story starts. The change happens. So looking ahead, competency-based education is definitely an academic approach to teaching, learning, and assessment that focuses on the students' learning outcomes and also attaining proficiency in particular competencies, both in curricular as well as co-curricular areas. So no doubt the competency-based education is more engaging learning experience. There's no doubt about it. More flexibility for students, more efficient learning outcomes for students, and it ensures improved confidence amongst the students. But then it has to be implemented in a phased manner with proper scaling. So we can start, say, from beginning from class 5 to class 8, one academic session. The next session we can start in class 9 and gradually taking it to up to class 12. It also needs the teachers' change in the mindset. Besides, of course, change in the skill set as well as soul set. Yes, teachers must believe that it is a possibility. No excuses now. It needs strong support from all quarters, from top, from colleague, and from parents also. Of course, it needs focus on hands-on activities, experiential learning, and inquiry-based learning. Technology-assisted pedagogy will definitely help the competency-based education. And there must be a clear assessment standards. So the present assessment standards will definitely not beneficial, nor will not help the competency-based education at all. Because we are hearing now from various boards that in the question paper from the next year, they will be asking the competency-based education. Unless and until we change the content part, unless and until we change the transactional part, we cannot implement it in the just straight away in the examination, the tail part of the curriculum dynamics. Well, so the message is now very clear. Yes, it is a globalized world order, and we want our school education to be of global standard. We want that most of the schools are to be at education 4.0 level. So काम तो कठिन है, इसीलिए करने योग्य है, नहीं तो आसान काम तो सभी कर लेते हैं. Thank you very much for listening to me. I may have missed, because it is a just general framework of the competency-based education. The subject-wise competencies will be definitely taken up when talking about the subject by the subject experts, what competency we need to develop in different subjects. Thank you once again for listening to me. And if there is any questions, if there is any point for reference, I'll be delighted to answer those things. Thanks.
Thank you very much, sir, for that wonderful session. We have started receiving questions from the audience. Can I give you these questions to you one by one?
Yeah.
This is a query from Priya Bhatti. She's asking, why doesn't the CBSE make it a rule for schools to go bag-free once a month? Once a month, why doesn't the CBSE recommend the schools to go bag-free?
Go bag-free?
Yes.
Bag-free?
Yes.
Okay, once a month?
Yes.
Okay.
So why doesn't the CBSE make it mandatory? That's the question.
Okay. That's the question, huh?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Yes, Priya, that's a nice question. Why you are saying that once in a month bag-free? I will say that every Saturday must be made bag-free. And this is not the new one. I was there in the 2000-2001 when we have announced that let the smaller children must come, no bag from the home, and come with a bat and ball and a tiffin box, and let everything be kept in the school itself. I will definitely agree with you. Let us start with a small step. We can have once or twice a month a totally bag-free day, and let we have something different, so that school becomes a very joyful environment. It's not the one particular board. I think we need direction from the educational people, actually across all the boards in India, that let there be certain days. We have already announced in the NEP that there will be 10 days of bag-free days when the children will go to the nearest village and will talk to the artisan, will talk to the farmers. The 10 days bag-free days. I will say that let it be integrated in our classroom process, in school processes, and let be once in a month, twice in a month, particularly Saturdays, a totally bag-free day. And there are many other things to do besides the cognitive skills, besides the textbook learning.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Shania John, and she's asking, how should the assessment be? Could you please explain your thoughts on it?
You see that our assessment is a real problem, because it is based on one-shot terminal examinations. See the progress of the student, the development of the students is a regular process, step by step, and we cannot judge our progress of a student just through one shot examination, one shot evaluation system. I do believe that unless and until there is a continuous assessment process inbuilt into our system, and let both the formative assessment and summative assessments are added together, and not only just focus on the cognitive skills, let us identify certain skills, certain values of hands-on activities, certain values and skills of the close to our heart, that is the affective domain, and put it into the assessment record, that every aspect of the cognitive skills, the psychomotor domain, the affective domain, as well as the emotional domain are reflected in the assessment, in the report card. Problem today is that when our system is totally based on one-shot terminal examinations, students are not only stressed, but we are not actually evaluating the child, assessing the child in a proper manner. So I will believe, let it be done in a different manner, because continuous and comprehensive evaluation are already discarded. I will believe that a form of formative assessment must be put into place along with the summative assessment, and our teachers need to be properly tuned and trained, because the credibility of our internal assessment system is bad. So unless and until the system has reliability, validity, and credibility, system cannot say that ours is one of the best. So I will say that let us have a formative assessment combined with the summative assessment, number one. Let the teachers be tuned and trained properly. And number third, let we come out with a white paper, how the internal evaluation has to be done. The very credibility of the internal evaluation has to be ensured. I think one-shot terminal examination, I think, is a blot, and this creates so many now, after having the inflation of marks, having those things. I think unless and until we change this assessment system altogether, I will not transform the assessment system. We cannot even think of talking about the competency-based education or any other things.
Thank you, sir. I here have a question that is, I will give it to you as I interpret it. Competency-based education is a global idea, but execution is still at its beginning. So why are we so late? I think that's what this participant is trying to ask.
Yes, we are definitely late. We are definitely late because we do like to put ourselves in a very comfort zone. Everyone, because there is no point in blaming the teaching fraternity or the schools. Everyone who are directly or indirectly associated with the education system, they would like to put themselves in very comfort zones. And as I've already said, we just want to repeat academic exercises year after year, because then we need not to put ourselves in a testing situations. Competency-based educations, I think I will say that about 10 years back, we should have come into this place. But we are late in coming out with a new education policy, number one. The new national curriculum has not yet come. We are still following the National Curriculum Framework 2005 and the textbooks written on that NCF 2005. And that's why we are late. But there is hope. Durust to aaye. We are now started talking about the competency-based education. Let us now, we can just pray and believe that at least from the next academic session, 2023-24, in some of the classes, beginning with the lower classes, middle classes, we can have this competency-based education, so that from 2025 or 2026 board examination, the students appear this competency-based education, the question papers and the assessment system. Let us see, we can hope for the best.
Thank you, sir. There was a related question, when will CBE be implemented? So you have already answered that. Another question from a participant. How will this affect special children, competency-based education?
Yeah, this will definitely help the special student. Yeah, because I have already said that we need to have a differential assessment system. I do not know, because looking into the large variables, the large number of students appearing in the board examination, how we can implement this, but at least we can make a beginning. We can have our formative assessment, the home assessment, I think a differential assessment system, not the same question paper, not the same pattern for all types of students. We can make a beginning. We can even make a beginning. Why should we give the same homework to the entire class? Let us give a differential assessment, differential homework, dividing the class into 4, 5, 6 categories, and they can be given accordingly. So we can make a small beginning. In the formative assessment, some percentage of the marks will be definitely added to the summative examination, where we can have this differential assessment system. But then we need to think, we can do even the school-based examination also, the differential assessment system. But how the board's examination, how this differential assessment, looking into the large variables, how this system will be implemented, I think we need a brainstorming session. We need to put up our actually thoughts and minds in together. But if definitely we can do it actually, though, because the primary objective that our assessment system has to be transformed, and it must cater to all types of all categories of students. The secondary issues are difficulty level, the barriers. The secondary issue should not be seen as such a barrier that we cannot overcome. It's not that physical barrier, it is all kinetic barrier. So we can make a beginning. I hope that from the next academic session, we can begin with lower classes, class 6, class 7 at a time, and then slowly taking it upwards. I think we can do that, but we need to do a lot of thinking process. We need to do a lot of paperwork for this. But I do believe that our system are strong enough to take up this challenge, and we'll definitely come out with flying colors.
Thank you, sir. Another participant asks, shall we adapt the Finland education model? For example, the student starts schooling not before 7 years of age and not even given any homework.
Sorry, I think I'm not the appropriate person to answer this question, because I have never seen the Finland education system. Unless and until I have read it, but unless and until we see it, we observe it, we cannot make any comment by just going through the paper knowledge. But definitely, I do not know whether you are aware of the Ganguly Commission report. We have very clearly mentioned, looking into the global perspective, that at what age the children or the child must go to the class 1. We have definitely recommended. And we have also recommended that how much years of pre-primary schooling is required for a child to enter into the class 1. These recommendations are already there, taking into consideration various factors. Only thing that it needs to be implemented. Yes. So I will not say that the Finland models of education is best or that model of education best, but what is very important that we have a very rich tradition of Gurukul system. And I think if we can learn from the past, even recent, I think past, about we can make good changes and we can implement it. At what age they will enter into class 1, that's altogether different thing. But I'm really feel very panicky When I say a 2-year-old child and 2.5-year-old child is going to the school, I do not feel whether this is going in a right direction or not. Maybe we may have to learn many things. I have not learned many things in my life, but that's a surprising thing. I feel very, very pained when I see a 2.5-year-old child in a sleeping mode going into the schools in the morning time.
So there are two similar questions. I'll ask them together. How can we make students go beyond the books? How can we do this at a practical level?
Ajay, practical?
How can we make students go beyond the textbooks? Because our entire system is textbook based. What can a teacher do? That is the question.
Yeah. That's a good thing. The first of all, I think that's a very important question, and I need to answer it very, very in a very different manner, because some people may not felt it very badly about this. These questions can be answered. I think that every teacher must know the syllabus of that class, syllabus of that subject. Today, our teachers do not know the syllabus. What is the learning outcomes? They think that whatever is given in the textbook, that is the syllabus, and we need to follow that accordingly. Today, chapter 1, tomorrow, chapter 2, tomorrow, chapter 3. They are not aware of what is the syllabus of this particular class and what is its learning outcomes, because we have not given, that's not their fault, because we have not trained them, tuned them accordingly. So every school, every teacher must be aware of the syllabus of that class. And whenever the teacher comes in the classroom, they are prepared. They need to be prepared all the time, every time. In this particular topic, I have given lectures. This is the 3rd or 4th lecture, but I have come again readily prepared and delivered it. So every time teachers go to the classroom, they need to be prepared. They need to prepare the lesson plan, and they can take the class accordingly, and not through, okay, yesterday we were at the page number 19, and let us every child actually bring your that books, let us look at the page 19, page 20. I think we need to change the way of the classroom has to be handled, the delivery mechanism I'm talking. When you talk about the beyond the class, beyond the pages of textbooks, for example, I'm not aware, I'm not in touch, latest touch actually for the last 1 year or so, whether the genomics or the augmented reality or the nanotechnology are part of the class 9th or 10th or 8th syllabus or not. But a teacher taking up the class of science, they can discuss this issue. Okay, today paper you must have read the nanotechnology. Can we discuss for 10 minutes about the nanotechnology? So what I'm saying to you that, up to class 9, we have a lot of autonomy about the classroom transaction. Well, there is a syllabus prepared by the NCERT. That's good. There's a framework. But it's not that we have to follow whatever is written in the textbook itself. So teachers need to prepare the lesson plan every time they go to the classroom. And in preparing that lesson plan, they will definitely look into the content part, the part she or he needs to be explained, but they need to also make a reference to other resources also, so that how this knowledge now can be extended in the real life situation. That may not be in the textbook itself. So when you talk that children need to be given exploration, given the engagement, extension, I think these are possible only when we go beyond the textbooks. It all depends upon the teacher, a great teacher, how they handle the situation. Textbook is only for those who want to make a reference But I will be delighted because whenever we in the higher classes, we went to we graduate, we seldom refer to the textbooks. It is the class notes. It is the class the explanation, which we used to take the notes, and then accordingly we prepared a fair deliberation. So I will prefer that when you talk about we need to go beyond the class, beyond the textbook, it simply means the teachers must know what they need to take up. They must know the syllabus. They must know the learning outcomes. And when they deliver about the learning outcomes and also extension of the knowledge, they will definitely be looked into the other resource also, other reference material also, and that can be brought out. The students need not to purchase that book. That can be brought up in his or in her explanations in the classrooms. That's the way only thing. Yeah.
Another question. We all talk about individual attention, but we especially fail in doing this effectively. How can we help the learners? Individual attention in the classroom.
Reaching to the unreached. That should be one of the philosophy of the teachers. Students who are sitting in the last bench. Yes, we are failing to that because we all do believe in the mass education or average education. We take the average of everything. And in our classroom transaction, which is happening these days, it is not only the weaker students who are failing to cope, it is also the meritorious students who are not feeling fully enjoyed in the present classroom system, because we are addressing the mass education, the average part education. It is very essential that let the entire, I think I've never been a teacher, but I've seen some of the best teaching things actually in best of the institution, both India and abroad. And I have seen how they have put into the classrooms into various groups, 4, 5, 6 groups. And those who do not actually have that attention power are not coping with the regular classroom deliberation. So it is up to the teachers. Teachers need to have that emotional, that empathy, that emotional intelligence, so that they can identify the students who are lagging behind, who are not putting up proper attention, and they need to take with them, definitely separately. Yes, of course, they can take the help of the technology also, repeating the same lesson, whatever they have taken up in the classroom, separately with them also. There are various ways of doing that. But I think when you talk about the competency-based education, if we cannot, and as you have said that every child is talented, we need to identify their talents. We need to actually recognize their latent talent, then accordingly guide them. May not be that they need to score good marks in mathematics or good marks in language, but they can definitely become successful in their life, provided we can identify their talents, we can recognize their latent talents, and teachers have the empathy and the emotional intelligence to appropriately guide those students.
Thank you, sir. We have several questions on the work of the teachers and teacher training. I'll club them all into one. What can we expect in terms of teacher training for competency-based learning?
What can we expect?
In terms of teacher training, what kind of teacher training will be required?
You know that if you look into the National Education Policy, they have said that every teacher now need to have 50 hours of teacher's training program every academic session. And this 50 hours means about 10 days of teacher training program for every teacher's every academic session. Now this 10 days program is a good thing. Now we can actually put it into what type of training we need to provide them. continuous professional development. That is one aspect. I will also say that each school, I will advise our management, it's not the part of that. Each the principal must advise the management that why can't we have 1.5 to 2% of the school budget earmarked for teachers training program. So we can develop the schools, each schools can develop their own competency to have a back to school program. Even every month, many schools are having the staff meeting. And I have seen some of the school, that staff meeting converted into a teachers training program. That has been divided into two parts, entire day program. The first part, they discuss about the certain issues raised by the district authorities, raised by the other people, raised by the board or the department. And the second half, they discuss about professional attainment program. In every staff meeting, they take up a theme. Okay, we'll talk about today competency-based education. We'll talk about the experiential learning. We'll talk about today about the innovative pedagogies. So there are various permutation and combination. Only thing that we have need to have a willpower, that the teachers need to have a professional updation program on a regular basis. I think if the school can develop its own competency, of course, they need to earmark certain percentage of budget. We can call, even I have seen some of the school in the staff meeting, in the second half, they call some experts from the outside also and deliberate with the teacher on that particular theme they have chosen for that staff meeting. So these are some of the ways we can do that. Okay.
Thank you, sir. We do still have a very long list of queries, but I don't think we'll be able to take them. So before we conclude, can I ask you, sir, two questions from a curriculum design point of view? Sir, at the beginning of your session, you mentioned that education has not kept pace with the change and the progress that we are making in technology and elsewhere. So in your view, when we design competency-based education curriculum, what would be, in your view, the top 5 competencies that we must include with the changes in mind, with the rate of progress in mind? Top 5 competencies that every education system must include.
Oh, I cannot, because I do not believe in ranking. I never, because these days some of the boards are declaring the merit list also. I never did it in my tenure of ranking the students, ranking the schools, because these are unhealthy things. But some of the competencies that is needed now, looking into the change in the employment scenario. Yes, creative thinking, critical thinking, problem-solving skills, innovations, and communications. We can include the mathematical skills. We can include the logical skills. There are various, I think I can do the 10, 15 such skills. We need to have that. What is needed now, that all the skills cannot be given, all the competencies cannot be given to every student. That's what I'm saying. That we need to make some differentiation strategy, that these students are very good in these things. We can go do that. We can give that also. So that differentiation is necessary, but I think we can, right now for the curriculum design part, I will believe that about 10 or 12 years back, we started talking about the HOTS, higher order thinking skills, that we have enough of MOTS. Now let us have a higher order thinking skills. And we started doing it in the board's examination. But then people started asking questions, why we have not introduced HOTS in our curriculum design. Our curriculum design, our textbooks are as traditional as ever. And you are now started asking HOTS questions, the higher order thinking skills, the Bloom's taxonomy in the question paper itself. So unless and until you change the design of the curriculum design, unless and until that curriculum is not appropriately transacted in the classroom, there is no point asking the students to put into the test, asking those HOTS. So I will say that when we talk about the competency-based education, let us identify the skills at different level, the competency that needs to be done at the curricular, co-curricular and other areas, class-wise, level-wise, do it into the classroom practices, teachers be trained and tuned appropriately. Then, of course, implementing it first in the front, the formative assessment, and then go for the summative assessment in lower classes, and finally into the board's examination later on after having 2-3 years of sufficient experience, because this has to be implemented in a phased manner. So I will definitely agree with you that our entire textbooks needs to be rewritten on a different mindset when we are talking about having competency-based educations in our system, or a inductive approach in our system. The entire textbook has to be written in totally in a different manner. Unless and until that is done, I think we cannot reflect in the classroom, and there is no point in asking or putting the students into the test by asking the competency-based questions. So you have to do a lot of hard work. सफर में धूप तो होगी, आपको चलना पड़ेगा उस धूप में. Yes. तो उसमें आपको अपने आप को बदलना होगा. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. This was very informative. I now request our director, Mr. Naveen Joshi, to address the session and also give the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Tilak. Thank you, respected Ganguly ji, Sri Vinod ji, principals, educationists, and members of teaching faculty with various schools. I would take this opportunity to thank you all for taking out time to attend this important webinar on implementing competency-based education, a key NEP objective organized by Viva Group. On this occasion, we wish to express our sincere gratitude to Sri Ashok Ganguly ji for taking valuable time off his busy schedule to deliver this important presentation. Gentlemen and ladies, let me remind you that Sri Ganguly ji was the first among the country's distinguished educators to speak at length about the National Education Policy 2020 on 8th August 2020, following its announcement by Government of India. It was our pleasure and privilege to organize the webinar Knowing and Implementing NEP 2020, where Sri Ganguly ji delivered his thoroughly insightful speech touching upon all aspects of the National Education Policy 2020. You will be pleased to know that it was one of the most successful and informative webinar on National Education Policy 2020, which saw the participation of more than 20,000 educationists from all over the country. The webinar of Sri Ganguly ji was so impactful that when it concluded, so many principals approached us and said that they had clearly understood the key features of the NEP 2020. As Mr. Tilak also told in his introductory remarks, let us offer huge thanks to Sri Ganguly ji for today's informative webinar that brought back the memory of the previous one. Our special thanks go to Sri Vinod Vashist ji, MD Viva Group, for his wholehearted support for organizing this wonderful webinar. We are thankful to Mr. Day, Mr. Jay, Mr. Samad, and Mr. Pradeep, along with our sales team across the country, who have left no stone unturned to make this event unforgettable on all counts. We also want to thank Mr. Tilak, Vice President Publishing, and Ms. Saloni for their important part to making this webinar successful. Let me conclude by thanking Sri Ganguly ji once again for this wonderful and informative webinar. Let's hope we keep witnessing his bright presence frequently and benefit from his brilliantly engaging words. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. And thank you once again to all the participants.